Today, we're diving into something truly fascinating. It starts with a very peculiar piece of code, one that seems to use ancient philosophy to solve a modern problem. And you won't believe where it leads. It might just hold a key to getting our own world unstuck. So let's start with a feeling we've all had. You're working on something, doesn't matter if it's code, a creative project, or just a problem in your life. You're making progress, you're in the zone, and then, bam, you hit a wall. Nothing works. You're stuck. There's a word for this: stagnation. It's when you're just caught in a loop, repeating the same mistakes, and progress just completely grinds to a halt. The real question is, what if you could actually design your way out of it? What if there was an intelligent escape plan? Well, that brings us to this incredible find, a piece of Java code called the Quantum Escape Controller. I mean, the name alone tells you it's doing something special. Its whole job is to engineer a breakout when the system gets stuck. Now, this is not your typical just reboot it fix. This thing has a plan. It's an elegant, totally non-random process. It doesn't just wildly shake things up hoping for the best. It has a deliberate, almost strategic method for finding a new path forward. And that plan has three distinct steps. First, it figures out why it's stuck, the diagnosis. Second, it does something called rebalancing virtues. We'll get to that. And third, it applies a concept called diffusion. So let's break that down. Okay, step one, diagnosis. This is really cool. The code actually looks back at its own history. It checks its different components. If one of them has a flat performance trend, it's not getting better, not getting worse, just flatlining, it gets flagged as stuck. But if another part is showing clear improvement, it gets marked as healthy. It's basically performing a checkup on itself. So once it knows what's working and what's not, it applies two totally different treatments. For the healthy parts, it doubles down, amplifying their success. It rewards what's working. But for the stuck parts, it doesn't just throw them out. It gives them this gentle, intelligent nudge, a phase shift, just to push them into a new state and see what happens. It's a targeted intervention, not a total reset. And then we have the final step, and this is where the quantum part comes in. It uses a technique inspired by a real quantum algorithm. It basically performs an inversion about the average. Now, that's just a fancy way of saying it listens to all the signals, cranks up the volume on the promising ones, and turns down the noise from the unhelpful ones. It's a way of focusing the entire system's energy on the best possible way out. So, right about now, you're probably thinking, okay, that's a really clever bit of code, and that's exactly what we thought. But then we noticed something really weird, something that just didn't make any sense in the context of a computer program. It all came down to the names it was giving its own variables. They weren't technical at all. In fact, they sounded philosophical. Get this. The code sets up what it calls a virtue vector, and its components have names like courage, justice, wisdom, temperance. I mean, come on, these aren't your typical programming terms. This is straight out of Aristotle. And that, of course, leads to the big question. Why on earth would an algorithm need courage or wisdom to find a solution? What is really going on here? And that's when we found it. A document, almost a manifesto, called Field of Truth. And it laid it all out. This code, it isn't just about getting a computer program unstuck. It's a tiny working model for how to get humanity unstuck. Suddenly, everything clicked into place. This discovery just reframes the entire story. We're not analyzing a clever algorithm anymore. We're looking at a blueprint for what the authors call a planetary operating system. The argument is absolutely wild. The very same logic that helps a piece of code break out of a loop can be scaled up to solve our biggest, most tangled societal problems. The code isn't the point, it's the analogy. And this is basically the Rosetta Stone for the whole idea. Diagnosing a stuck component in the code, that's a metaphor for identifying failed ideas and broken systems in society. Rebalancing those virtues, that's about us reevaluating our core ethical priorities. And that diffusion operator, well, that's their model for how you actually spark widespread positive social change. And the manifesto doesn't pull any punches. It claims this new way of thinking, this nonlinear, systems-based approach, could be applied to all of our most impossible, gridlocked problems. We're talking about political polarization, the climate crisis, economic inequality, even the fake news and disinformation crisis.
And they're serious. This isn't just a thought experiment. The document lays out a concrete 4-phase, 20-year roadmap to transform, as they put it, our entire civilizational operating system. It's incredibly ambitious.
Okay, so let's pause and really distill this down. What is the fundamental change that this whole framework is actually proposing? What's the core takeaway? It's really a battle between two ways of thinking. The argument is that we are trapped in this linear thinking doom loop. We see a problem, we find one simple cause, we apply one simple solution, and it almost always leads to even worse unintended consequences. The alternative they propose is nonlinear, holding multiple perspectives at once, aligning our actions with core virtues, and learning to see the whole interconnected system. So, the ultimate goal here isn't really political or technological in the way we usually think about it. It's a cognitive shift. It's about upgrading our collective mental software, our toolkit for thinking, so we can move beyond simplistic black and white arguments and embrace a more complex, nuanced, and ethically grounded reality. There's this fantastic analogy in the document that comes from quantum physics. It's called quantum tunneling, how a particle can pass through a barrier that should be impossible to get through. The idea here is that a cognitive shift could allow society to tunnel through our own seemingly impossible problems just by fundamentally changing how we approach them. And that's maybe the most important thing to grasp. This isn't just some abstract philosophy. It's being presented as a practical tool, a new kind of cognitive technology designed specifically to solve the massive, complex problems that our current ways of thinking created in the first place. Which leaves us with one final, pretty profound question. When we look out at the world and see so many crises playing out in repeating, predictable loops, you have to wonder, if our whole civilization is stuck, could it be that our own linear, simplistic way of thinking is the bug that we desperately need to fix?